Have you ever been like on schedule?
No. No.
I think most people hate castings.
Did you say plastic or castings?
Castings.
Oh,
Castings.
yeah,
It's a
definitely
cast-
hate castings.
Plastic
Yeah.
too. Say no to plastic.
Yeah, hashtag say no to
Yeah.
plastic.
Try to use a whirly bird.
Is that what you call your ring around tool?
It's a whirly bird, not a ring
I
around.
just call it a no-go.
Ring around sounds like something weird.
I don't think scheduling your work around your life is how it's going to be in the beginning. I feel like you're going to be busting your ass in the beginning and it's going to suck.
Yep.
What would make you close Marvel Machining and go work at a shop?
We're hiring.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Impractical Machinists Podcast. My name is Patrick. You can find me on Instagram as @JobShopperTM.
And I'm Cameron, also known as Machining is Cool.
And I'm Bradley, known as Marvel Machining.
Today's topics are going to include improvements for your shop, our favorite and least favorite types of work to do, reasons to leave a job, and whatever else pops up along the way. All right, lads, how's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
Busy.
Catching up. Finally.
That's nice. We were catching up. Then we had
Yeah.
a couple people quit, so now we're going to start falling behind again. But it's all right.
I had that week where a little bit of a back problem kind of
Yeah.
slowed things down, fell behind about a week. So this week was hectic, catching up, got everything out though.
That's good.
That's the downside of being the guy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. All three of us are kind of in different states of busyness right now because, I mean, we're slow as molasses. Brad, you can have whatever workload you want, basically. And then Cam, you guys, like, as long as I've known you now, have you ever been, like, on schedule?
No. No. Well, so
I am curious, how do you guys handle that from a customer perspective as far as
we really have like one main customer that most of our work is for. And the good thing about that customer is they've got a lot of bureaucracy built into their company. So I don't think they get anything on time when they want to. It's also very difficult to become a supplier for them. So we have that going for us. We're also, one of their top suppliers. And so they work with us and they're understanding. It kind of comes down to like, yeah, I mean, these are the due dates, but like, hey, these specific parts, how fast can you get them to us? Or like, what date can you realistically get them to us if we're going to be behind on stuff? And it's like, or they'll just tell us what they need first. And so, I don't know. We did catch up for a little bit. Really, I think what got us behind was we hired a couple of guys, like some 18-year-olds. And so we had ate up a ton of time trying to teach them, how to not screw up, like teach them the basics of machining, like the very basics, because we weren't going to trust them to do anything crazy yet. Then there's also all the like the grunt work. There's some parts that we paint for this company, so you got to paint the parts, saw material, teach them how to do that properly. How to even read a scale or identify material, package all the parts. So there's just a ton of in-between work as well that required a lot of focus in the beginning to get them spooled up and get them going. So that actually took us from being on time to, I think by the time we were like, they were just working and not being taught all the time, we were like a month behind on a lot of things. So then one of them went to go work at a car dealership. I guess he wasn't really too interested in machining, and we were doing all right. We were still kind of at that like month behind, started catching up a little bit. But yeah, another thing that slows us down too is like the more complex stuff, like the really in-depth jobs that require a lot of programming time. And there's quite a few jobs we get from this company where they're not quite a few. There's a handful that are like I guess the ones that are difficult where it's a casting and you have a casting print from like 1962 that you can't read. And you have to create a 3D model for this thing before you can even machine it. And you can like, this is machining a casting from, solid stock. So you have to machine the actual casting itself and then machine the features into the casting that you would normally machine if you had the casting. So that's pretty time consuming. That bogs me down a lot, which it's, I have to balance between the normal programming for all the shops that I can just push out to the shop floor, and then the more in-depth stuff that takes a ton of time that I need to focus on and then I need to run. So those are just some of the things that have slowed us down over time. But we started catching up. We were doing really good. And then, we had a machinist leave because he was driving an hour every day to get to work. And, he was 62. We could make a lot of heavy parts. Pretty much everything is steel or cast iron. And so he's like, yeah, I found a job that's 20 minutes from my house and not as much heavy lifting. So can't blame him there. Then we had that 18-year-old leave, another one of them. So now we're down to me, the owner, a 22-year-old or 21-year-old, and another 18-year-old that I hired that's actually from my neighborhood. And he's doing pretty good. So we got a good group right now. We just have too many parts for the group that we have right now.
Right.
That's where we are. It's, I don't know. It's a constant battle to try and catch up.
Right. It's hard to maintain, man, unless you've got a super short pipeline between, production and new work, because that's the problem we have. It's since we're a little bit bigger company, there's several people that got to be involved with the job process, and it doesn't always get relayed immediately that, hey, we're short on work. Let's shorten our lead time, or let's quote a little bit cheaper. And it's hard to balance that out. I mean, it's always, especially in like the job shop world, what I've seen in 10 years I've worked here and from other people I've met, a job shop work level is essentially like this. It's a roller coaster, right?
Yep.
And I've never seen it be able to even out. I think our problem right now is just the economy is not great. We all know that. But locally, I think it might be worse than in other places. There's a lot of companies, industrial companies, that are like laying people off, slowing down. We've got one customer that used to be one of our biggest, mainly for the fab shop, not so much for over here. They went from, I think 2 years ago, they were producing, 22 or 24 boat trailers a day, right? They went from that, 22 to 18 last year. And it really cut down on the amount of product that we made for them. Well, now they've cut down to 4 a day.
Oof. Wow.
And they're laying off a lot of people, and it's not good. Now, you just have to adapt and overcome. That's what humanity has always done. But it's hard, especially when it's stuff that you've had.
Is all your guys' work local? Pretty
much. I'd say within like a 40, 50 mile radius. There was a place of all places in Oklahoma that I'm pretty sure Oklahoma that we were dealing with a few years ago for some automation equipment and stuff like that. And that was awesome. That was fun work, but we ain't heard from them in a while. They actually opened a branch in Knoxville, which is, 30 miles away. We ain't heard much from them. Almost everything else is probably within a 20 to 30 mile radius of up here. I don't know if this is a good thing to say public or not. Brad, you tell me. We are trying to get established with Xometry, and of course that would open us up to literally the whole world to some point, but we'll see how that goes.
I think Xometry would be a good topic to talk about at some point. Work is work at the end of the day.
Right.
Doesn't matter where it comes from. That's kind of my thought behind it.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a secret that we're involved with them. Just, I know they're weird about stuff like that. Anyway, they can cut this part out if they want.
And there's plenty of other sourcing companies out there that do the same thing. I started working with another one locally here not too long ago. They showed up at my door, and at first I was kind of like, no, not interested. I wasn't really looking for work, but they function a little bit differently. They make the connection direct to customer. So they got me into Medtronic. I've been doing some work for Medtronic now, and it's all direct.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice, man.
And they take their cut for any job you do. I think it's like 5% or something. So it's not even that bad.
So they're almost more of a networking company.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Which is probably the way to go because you don't have to deal with, being liable for, being liable for bad parts. You're just connecting the dots. Let them handle it.
Yeah, and they've been around. I thought he said they started in like 1982 or something, and they got a team of like, I don't know if there's 8 or 12 people throughout the Midwest that, they just connect shops with customers.
Yeah,
that's nice. See if there's anything like it around here. So, kind of on the topic of work, one of the things that some of our group chat friends have been asking us is, what, and it's a fun thing to talk about. What are our favorite types of things to work on, and what's our least favorite thing? It's something that's I've always found fun to talk about with people that we've hired, machinists, programmers, and whatnot, because you get a different answer every time. The one universal thing is I think most people hate castings. Right,
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty universal thing. I
don't know anyone that likes plastic.
I don't mind delving.
Or did you say plastic or castings?
Castings.
Castings.
Yeah,
It's a
definitely
casting,
hate castings.
Plastic
Yeah.
too. Say no to plastic.
Yeah, hashtag say no to
Yeah.
plastic. Shout out Proto.
Both are bad.
Yep.
If I can avoid,
Save the turtles.
if I can avoid both, I will.
Yep.
The castings, they're always they've always got some, funky shape that traps chips and coolant, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And then, you touch them, you get all dirty, which whatever you're machining, but it's a little extra thing. But I don't know. I just hate castings for some. And then you get the castings that have like more draft angle than they should have had, or you machine the whole casting and on the last operation you find porosity, or, they're just something's not the size it was supposed to be, and you get halfway into machining it and you're like, wow, well, I should have compensated for that 2 operations ago because now you don't have enough material on one face, or a hole's not where it's like it's off center where it's supposed to be. So one side cleans up and the other one doesn't. Yeah.
And fortunately, we try to shy away from castings, but the one job I can think of that we do a lot, that's a casting. It's like that. It's small parts. It's not even large parts like you'd think a casting would be. It's small parts. Can't really say what they are, but and that's what we run into. They're cast with it's like a sand casting where they have like a wood mold or something like that that's probably 30 years old. And so, you'll get one batch that'll be, they come in like a bucket, a 5-gallon metal bucket or something. And somebody just threw them in there. And you'll get some that'll be okay. They'll have 20, 30 thousandths of material where they should, machine away, whatever, it's fine. Then you'll get some that have a huge, whatever they call it, where the metal comes into the casting. Is that called a sprue?
We always call them gates.
Yeah,
flow gates.
Gate. Yeah, that's it. That's it. They'll have a huge knob where that is, at which on these little parts, usually that means you'll end up throwing the darn thing out. Or you'll get one where it's like under, it's not even that it doesn't have enough material to clean up. It's just plumb too small. Some yahoo just picked it up and poured it and did, measure it with a guessing stick.
Them yahoos.
Exactly. Can't stand it.
Yeah, them yahoos, don't you know?
Don't you know? That's going to become a trademark now. But I'll have to share a picture of some parts that we're actually doing right now. It's probably on screen right now if you're watching this on YouTube. We're doing like 40 either Delrin or HDPE trays for a company. And I think it's either a sorting tray where they'll just, put parts into it for organization or, like assembly or something, or it might be for a robot. I'm not sure. But there's 40 of these things. They got all kinds of crazy slots in them and pockets and stuff. But honestly, they're fun. It's good material to machine. Now, conversely, I hate UHMW.
Mm-hmm.
That like, it sounds absurd, but I'm going to say that next to Inconel, that's probably my least favorite material to work with. I hate
Really?
UHMW. Yes, because it's so slippery and soft. You can't clamp it. You can't hold tolerances on it. But some, engineer will
Yahoo engineer.
I wasn't going to say it, but now that you mention it, yeah, I mean, he'll have a UHMW part and he'll dimension it with like a, plus or minus 0.5 tolerance. And it's like, you're dumb.
Not going to happen, buddy.
Right.
Yeah, I see a lot of UHMW. I got an automation customer, and I see a lot of that. And I've been no quoting it lately. I can't stand doing it unless I have nothing going on. I'll do it, but I don't want to even try to fit it into my schedule if I don't have to. Because, like you said, it's terrible.
Yep.
And then if you try to use a whirly bird to burr an edge, sometimes it'll just gouge right in there.
Bird. Is that what you call your ring around tool?
It's a whirly bird, not a ring around.
I just call it a no-go. What's
ring
wrong with that?
around? Ring around sounds like something weird.
That's what you use it to ring around a hole whenever you don't have a countersink.
What if you're doing the edge?
Well, it's still a ring around.
What if you're doing an edge?
Doesn't matter.
You're ringing around.
Yeah,
the
you're
part,
ringing around
the perimeter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wait, you guys are deburring your parts?
No. Let the machine do that.
I try to do everything in the machine, but sometimes if you got that UHMW, it's not even worth trying to do because you never know how wavy that shit is sitting in there, and then you go with a chamfer tool, and then all of a sudden you got 50 thou on one side and then 10 on the other,
or it's just all fuzzy.
Yeah, can't stand that. But like plastic is just a whole different thing. Like I say, you've got HDPE and Delrin, which are great. Nylon's pretty decent to work with, but then down at the bottom you've got UHMW, rubber. You guys ever tried to machine rubber?
No.
Yeah. We used to worked at a company. We were ready to put a hole through a rubber stopper or something, and they actually toleranced it like plus or minus 5 to drill through the hole. It was just dumb. I think we ended up drilling it like 60 over or something just to hit the tolerance.
Wow. Golly. So we used to make some parts. I think they were like a split clamp, and they weren't rubber, but they're polyurethane, which is, for all intents and purposes, similar. We would stick them things in a tank of liquid nitrogen and then try our hardest to machine them in like 2 minutes, not run any coolant or any air or nothing, just because that's what it took to be able to hold them and try. I mean, these people had, kind of like Brad was just saying, they had like plus or minus 5,000 tolerances, and you can take and squeeze it. Like, I mean, it's rubber. It's literally rubber. So you can squeeze it like a piece of rubber. I mean, it's silly. And it's worse than trying to machine something tight tolerance out of wood. And we started actually just putting them in the freezer, which worked okay, but LN2 was way better. But the only time I've seen our owner, I've talked about him before, he can set a piece of rubber up on a grinder, a jig grinder in particular, and that works just fine. So
really?
You can grind the stuff, but I mean, it's still, don't get me wrong, it's still soft and mushy. But yeah, with a coarse dressed wheel, you can actually grind it.
I would have never thought to do that.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yep.
Hey,
I'll tell you,
what?
I run a lot of acetyl or Delrin, whichever they choose. I usually opt for acetyl just to save if they don't care. I hate turning. I try not to do it, but I've been bringing some Delrin parts in-house turning. Turning's far easier with acetyl or Delrin than milling.
Yeah.
I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, you can actually break the chip turning Delrin.
Yeah.
Is it acetyl or acetal?
Acetyl.
I guess, is it a whirly-bird or a ring-around tool?
Well, it might be a Yankee versus a Southern thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've always heard it as what you said, Cam.
Acetal?
Yeah.
Acetal?
Yeah.
Isn't that acetone?
No, it's acetal.
Similar, yeah.
Some people got
I don't know, acetyl.
Some people got no acetal.
Oh gosh. No, acetone, that stuff, it smells real good.
They're gonna have to put up a trivia for
Yeah, exactly.
Whirly Bird, and what did you call it?
Ring around tool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be
I'm
great.
gonna
Impractical
have y'all heard
Machinists
of,
victory of the day?
Yeah, right. Have y'all heard of people machining plastic with high speed steel?
Yeah.
Like preferring to do that still?
No.
Yeah. Honestly,
I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it myself, so I was curious what y'all thought about that.
To me, I mean, if you've got end mills that carbide end mills that are suitable for aluminum, you're just as well off. But if you don't, which I mean, you should, don't get me wrong,
right?
But for years we really didn't. But yeah, I mean, like a 2-flute, high speed steel end mill, it's brand new, sharp, never cut metal. I mean, like we were talking before we started recording, them things will absolutely lay you open. So yeah, they work great on plastic. And I might be wrong. I feel like they have typically, like I'm thinking we used to use OSG, High Pro V, I think, high speed steel end mills, just for stuff like that, because we're not completely cavemen. And I think those have a pretty low helix angle. So one of the issues with machining plastic is obviously it's easy to pull out of the vise. It's slippery if you're not using gripper jaws.
Yeah.
So I always liked using those for that reason. It's less apt to twist apart, pull it out, versus it seems like aluminum end mills are getting more and more aggressive with the helix angle every day.
Yeah.
38, 45, 60. It gets crazy.
Seems like work holding is getting more aggressive too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what it would be like if you use a downcut end mill in plastic.
That works. I've done that. That blew my mind, man. Have you seen an end mill like that in person, Cam?
Yeah, but not in
they
person.
are trippy.
Tried it. It looks wrong. It looks like it shouldn't work.
Exactly. They look so strange. But for those of you that don't know, essentially I've seen them scientifically referred to as a right-hand cut, left-hand spiral end mill.
Yeah.
And essentially they spin spinning the conventional way, clockwise, unless you're in Australia. And sorry, that's a dumb joke. That was for Kiwi machinists. But
say no to plastic, Kiwi.
Yeah, there you go. But so they spin clockwise, but the flutes run down when they go that way. So essentially, they shoot the chips and they shoot the part, if it were to grab it, down, or they help hold it down. I would not recommend using one in a pocket. Ask me how I know. That does not work because the chips go underneath the end mill. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not pretty, but they do work well for holding a part down.
I wonder if that would work better, with plastic being so light. If you were to use 3-spindle coolant or something to blast it out of the pocket, if you could actually run the downcut end mill.
It's not a bad idea. I haven't tried that, but I could see that.
You'll have to ask Ryan in the chat. I think he ran one of them in some pockets in aluminum. They were some thin. It ended up being pretty thin, and he ended up running it to push it down rather than trying to pull it up.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I've tried it. It's been years since I've had to use one. Matter of fact, those parts I was just talking about, those polyurethane split clamps, we were using those kinds of end mills on that just because they were so easy to yank out.
I would imagine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tools that push down are awesome. Like high feed mills. It's my favorite. I love that. And I don't, if you don't know, well, the benefit of high feed mills is your tool pressure is axially, so it's up and down. That's the majority of it anyways. And so basically the tool is pushing the part down while you're machining versus, like an end mill or a shoulder mill or something where your tool load is radial, so it's on the side. So like with a high feed end mill, you can get deep down into high feed mill. You can get deep down into a pocket or just, have a really long stick out in general and not have a bunch of chatter. You can still machine just fine. So that could save your butt for sure. even if it's not necessary, like the material itself isn't necessary to run a high feed mill. Because, a lot of times people use them in harder materials, because, well, it just works better. You get better tool life and stuff. But, even in mild steel, I use them all the time just to be able to reach.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, you're gifted with some pretty nice machines where you're at your DMs, but with our hoses, Cat 40 hoses, I mean, it gets rough when you start trying to reach past, I'm gonna say 2.5 inches. But I mean, I've used high feed mills, arbors mainly. I think I've used a 1-inch high feed mill that was in just probably a welding holder. No, me.
That's a problem right there.
Shut up, Brad.
I'm gonna hashtag say no to welding holders.
Gosh.
I don't even own one.
Really?
Man,
That's
get good, noob.
Nope. I don't have.
That's
any.
what I put high feed mills in.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Works great.
I just do that because to me,
Well-
without getting super fancy like heat shrink and stuff like that, that's the most rigid holder you can get.
Well, with a high feed mill, if you have, a thousandth of run out on a high feed mill, you're going to be just fine. It's not going to matter.
True.
If you're, at least I don't think it would, but I'm not an expert, but,
No, I don't see it.
yeah, I don't see what,
I guess
with an end
I
mill,
don't use them.
with an
so-
end mill, you add a thousandth of run out, that's one flute that's getting a thousandth extra every cut.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense there, but it's like with a high feed mill and the way it cuts 25 thousandths per tooth versus 26 thousandths per tooth when you're cutting, it ain't going to matter.
Yeah.
Right. So more back on our topic of least and most favorite is trying to think of any other least favorite things I like. And the only other thing that comes to my mind is weldments. And that kind of goes in the same category of the casting, right? Especially depending on if you're coordinating with another shop or another department or whatever, you're not the one right there, help getting the part to cut, welded, bent, whatever. It can be a pain because you don't have material here where you need it, or it bowed way more than it should have. And we have a full fab shop, laser, plasma, water jet, welders, MIG, TIG welders, and 250 or 500 ton brake press. We don't do weldment jobs that much just because it's a pain. We prefer just stuff that's, blown out, bent, welded, and it's done. Or maybe poke some holes in it and tapped holes or something if it needs it. But, straight up machined weldments are a nightmare.
Yep.
Yeah. I've done one since being on my own. I've done plenty as an employee, but I did one and I was like, I'm never going to do this again. If I can avoid it. For the right price, I'll do just about anything.
Right. But I mean, if you have the work coming in to where you don't need to do annoying, shitty jobs, and you can do the easier jobs, then it makes sense. But we have, I think that's part of what keeps us busy is doing the difficult stuff like the weldments and the castings. We do a ton of, well, it depends on what you would consider a ton. I would say probably
10.
All right. Like 30 to 40% of what we do is a weldment or a casting. So
wow,
we do a decent number of weldments and castings. And we will pre-machine, do all the weld prep. So we'll machine all the weldment items. And then we have a guy who does our welding for us and, he'll weld them together and then bring them back. And occasionally something gets lost in translation or because it's kind of difficult, especially if you're not a machinist. When you look at those prints, there can be a lot of stuff going on there. And so it's pretty easy to mess something up. What definitely helps is having a good weldment fixture. Try to make it like as mistake proof as possible. That helps a lot. But part of it comes down to just the welder understanding what they're doing. Basically knowing how the part's going to react to being welded. Make sure it's not going to, they go and tack it on one side and they don't have everything clamped down right. Then on one side of, a piece of the weldment, then that piece draws into that tack and then whenever you go to actually machine it, there's material for part of that surface that gets touched, but then it doesn't clean up all the way because it, drew so much. So stuff like that can happen. Another issue we've had with weldments is porosity. So there's a lot of stuff we do where it's, explosion proof. There can't be any porosity at all. And so I think the main problem that we figured out with that was we were welding laser cut surfaces or burned out flame cut surfaces, or welding to, like you clean all the mill scale off, clean it as best you can. But if it's still, a surface as it came from the mill, it hasn't been machined, it's not fresh metal, I think that still causes the porosity too. So we don't typically have a problem if we machine every single part on all sides of every single part where it's all clean, bare metal. We don't really typically have an issue with porosity then. So that pretty much needs to be the go-to if you're doing a weldment and like the porosity matters. So that's probably the one tip I have for that, or the two tips, weldment fixture as well. But yeah, weldments suck. That's also one of my least favorites. And it's always a box for some reason. Not always, but a lot of times we have boxes that we weld. And so like what I was doing today where, it's got I think it was a 4 1/4 tin hole on one side of the box. That's your first operation. So machine all that away. So you have end mill chips in there. You have like tiny, thread mill chips in there that stab into you whenever you go to maneuver the part around and like dump it out, try to dump all the coolant chips out of it and all that. Then you're moving it to the next vise. We have, all three ops set up at one time on the table. So you go to move it from one vise to the next, and I don't know, it's just a chip nightmare. But that's also one of my least favorite things about the castings and the weldments is we get a lot of boxes. So a lot of coolant trapped in there, a lot of chips trapped in there. It's a real pain.
Sounds like you need to get you a horizontal cam.
Oh, dude, it would be perfect. It would be great. Tell you what would really probably benefit us a lot.
You want to send it my way?
No.
No, I don't want it. I don't want it.
I knew that was coming.
I think a horizontal would be good, and also a 5-axis that you can turn using the table. I know Heller's got some, and I know DN has, I think it's like 8000 T50 or something like that. So basically the table spins at a high enough RPM to be used as a lathe, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So do that. You can have all your turning tools in the tool changer. So you can just call up the tools you want. You have, chips getting built up. You just tilt your table over, dump all your chips out, and then keep going. Like that's a problem. And then there's a lot of stuff we do where we got a high feed, material away because they're just big parts. And so you're going to end up burning through a lot of end mills. So it's part of it's cost effectiveness. Part of it is chip evacuation. It's a lot easier to get high feed mill chips out. But it doesn't fit. They won't fit in our big lathes, even with the 24-inch chuck. But we have 30-inch wide travel, so of course we do. Like 28-inch parts. So you get that 8000 T, and you could just turn every single thing. And I don't know, it would save us a lot of time, a lot of pain as well. That's a dream machine if I had to pick one.
Yeah. One thing about it though, they do suck. But if you're capable of doing them, I mean, you're sitting here, okay, 2 out of 3 shops right here don't like doing weldments or castings. 1 out of 3 does. Well, Cam, you're going to get that work.
Yeah.
So we all have to find our niche,
Yeah. I think it kind of just happened organically as well. It was one of those things where they're like, hey, can you quote this? And we're like, we can probably do that.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of start doing it, and then they give you some more, and then they give you some more. And next thing you know, you're the weldment / casting guys.
Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of work comes in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sometimes you don't. I don't know if you
I
can
did
do it till you do.
Gears I shared. Yeah, I did them gears I shared not too long ago. I mean, I didn't ever want to do gears. I had no idea, but this company just asked, "Hey, can you help us out?" I'll give it a try. And now, God, I don't know how many I've done, and I hate them.
Yeah.
And I don't broach them. I don't do it the conventional way. I mill them.
Yeah.
I've had some custom tools made, or sometimes I'll surface the gear tooth. I'm making 1 or 2. I'm not in a race to get it done.
Yeah.
So.
That's one thing
Yeah.
that blows my mind is gear hobbing,
Oh yeah.
gear making in general.
Yep,
It's its own world.
it is. This customer that's been giving to me, we got a local gear hobber. They went out of business and a lot of the equipment went up for auction. I said, God, maybe I should try to pick one up if they're going to keep sending me this stuff, but I'd just rather not get into
Right.
it.
Yeah, that's an art. It really is, because depending on how nitty gritty you need to get with it, we shy away from gears, especially when we have to try to reverse engineer the gear, because we don't know what to do. You know, if we can get a model or a clear print that shows the exact shape, we don't have to guess or try to interpret some crazy standard from 1857. Then that's one thing. I can get Dave to make us a tool, or I can 3D it or whatever. But if somebody, these walk-in people that I keep talking about,
Damn,
if they bring
yeah.
in,
Say no to walk-ins.
exactly. Yeah, not even on a Wednesday. It might be a Tuesday. You get somebody brings in a gear and it's a weird shape. You don't know what it is. There is no. So I've talked to this guy on Instagram. He's from Wisconsin.
I know who you're talking about.
Yep, American Machining Gear. He's actually done some work for us.
Yep.
And he's an awesome dude, very smart, and he's a stinking gear wizard. I've learned quite a bit just from chatting with him. And one thing I've learned from him is, like, the only standard with gears is there is no standard. Right? There is no standard. I mean, you got your, you might have a 20 or 14.5 degree pressure angle, might be 27. I can't remember. All this junk, it all just depends on the use case. And so we've made, there's one gear that we make on a semi-repetitive basis, and it's actually we call it gear with shaft, because it's a shaft and the gears are like integral to the shaft. It's not keyed or anything. And, that started out, somebody, I don't know who, reverse engineered it to get the shape. And we 3D it. I have thought about getting a cutter made for it. But, it just depends on cost. And we haven't done one of those now for, I don't know, a year. So it's kind of like, well, may not be worth it.
I'll tell you, I've learned a lot about gear since I've been doing them. I found Rush Gear. They're a great source for reverse engineering gears, because they kind of got a builder where you just input the info.
That's right.
Really helpful.
That's pretty cool.
I have used them.
I think I had a set of gears I did. There were 4 of them. Just the diameter changed, and I used that just to kind of build my model to machine to, and it worked out great.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So enough with all the gears and weldments and castings. What do y'all actually like to machine? What's your favorite?
Aluminum.
Everybody loves aluminum.
Man, get out of here. No.
Aluminium.
Low quantity.
Yeah. Nah, I want like medium quantity. I want like 50. Yeah, that's a good number. Keep the machine fed.
I want that one part.
Yeah.
I can start at 4:30 and come back at 9 and it's done.
Yeah. Charge like $4,000 for it.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah. It works out so well for me.
So
you need some horizontal runs.
I know I do.
Yeah.
I just quoted a job. Hopefully it comes through, and end of August is the plan. 420 parts.
Ooh.
That's a lot.
How big are they?
I think the stock it's 1 by 12 by like 16.
Okay.
2 ops.
One side of your
size.
One side of your tombstone. Or could you fit to it?
I ran.
Could you fit?
I could fit. I got one set. I'm looking at it. It's right there. If you're watching. I ran it about a year ago. I think I did 200 at that time, but I got 2 tombstones set up that I can, for the first op, I can run 4 parts. So 1 on each side. And then the second op, when I flip it, I got soft jaws on I think it's my orange one. I got 1 on each side I can fit. So, and it's, once I get it set up, I think between the 3 or 4 tombstones, I swap parts every 4 hours, I think it is.
Yeah.
So it just runs around the
That's
clock.
nice.
Wow.
But I think if I get this bigger order, I think I'm gonna build to set up all 6 tombstones.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's the plan.
Yeah. I would say that would be my favorite job. Something like that. Load up some tombstones and let it run.
It's nice. I bought the tombstone or the horizontal pallet pool it popped up at auction. I had no plans on buying a machine at that time. It came up. I had to buy it. And I originally set it up to have 6 different setups so I could go from setup to setup to setup and never tear anything down. And then I took that job on and I'm like, this is kind of nice coming out here every 4 hours and just running.
Yeah.
So that's the goal now, is to look for some production.
Really, you just need more tombstones.
Yeah.
The
Keep all
key
your
is-
setup. Keep all your random vice setups and everything, whatever, all the different stuff you want to do set up, and then have your production tombstones.
Yep. I have 2 extra pallets, so I can set up 2 more, and they're easy to pull in and out. So
Yeah.
I got 8 total. So
Nice.
Man,
The key is right. The key is you don't want stuff that's like, it's going to take you 10 minutes to run one pallet. You're going to want like 4 hour, 8 hour runtime.
Yeah.
yep.
Man, that'd be amazing. Like, imagine if you had all 6 pools set up, all 6 pallets set up on the same job, and each pallet had like a 2-3 hour runtime. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. There's a guy on YouTube that's got it set up. He's overseas somewhere. I think he's got 5 or 6. I think he's got 15 pallets. They just run around the clock all year round.
Mm.
That would get boring.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got us set up. I think it must be on his home property. It's just himself.
Yeah.
I think he does stuff for pedal bikes, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it would be cool. It would definitely be cool, especially if it's your own gig. But I feel like it's just not painful enough, you need some more of that job shop,
Yep.
stress.
I like to program, run apart, program, run apart.
Yeah.
So
Program op 1, set it up, run it while it's running, program op 2.
Yep. Man, I've actually been running parts now. We had some guys left. It's been nice. I haven't been stuck at a computer so much. Been out in the shop, setting up, running jobs. Get 2 machines running at one time, 3 machines, bounce between them all.
oh man.
Well, back to the
I love
material.
that.
What do you like running?
Oh, aluminum. Yeah, for sure. Aluminum's my favorite.
Shame. That's the easy
I don't mind.
pick, man.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
I like
All
A2.
ass.
I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Really?
I like A2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So give me a part that's like, so for me personally, right? I like a part that is A2 or 4140 pre-hard, maybe a little funky shape, a few ops, preferably not super tight, or if it is, it's something that you're going to grind, but it's something that when you're done with it, it's like, oh man, that looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I love machining A2 just because it usually, like as a tool steel, it's probably one of the easier ones to machine, but it's easy to get those nice, beautiful, shiny finishes versus like, mild steel, 4140 annealed. I do don't get me wrong. I like aluminum. I actually like Delrin. I straight up like Delrin.
Well, I guess, so should the question be, what is your favorite material, or what are your favorite parts to make? Because our least favorite are weldments and castings, and those are, types of parts.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's a little bit of both, really. I mean, you've got materials. Weldment isn't going to be plastic.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, though. I guess it'd be held together with hot glue.
Just 3D print it.
Right. No, 3D printing sucks.
That's right. 3D printing sucks.
So, but yeah, you've got your materials, which sounds like plastic. I'm not fond of super alloys just because we never seem to get the right tooling for it. Hastalloy, Inconel, stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just not experienced enough with it. I know you got to run slow, but finding the right tooling, the right parameters and really probably our less ideal machines probably limit us on that.
Yeah. I'd like to play around with that stuff.
Yeah. But, types of parts, you got your weldments. I don't really care for thin plates just because we don't have a good vacuum setup or a magnet for steel.
Plate work is down there with weldments. Not a fan of it.
I wouldn't put it down there quite
I don't
that
mind
low,
it.
but it's not great.
No.
Vacuum and stuff down is awesome. It's
I guess
fun.
that's the difference. I've never done any vacuum plate work, but also
it's so
pretty
nice.
much all the plate work we do is like, it's all like tooling plates for, like pallets and stuff like that for horizontals for other companies, or maybe plates that have to be, flat within 2000ths or something like that.
Yep.
Not a fan of that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
It usually goes just fine. I just don't like doing it. I don't like setting it up. I don't like figuring out how I'm going to hold it because you squeeze it in a vise or something and it wants to bow on you. All that. It's like, I'd rather just have something, not that.
Yeah, that's where that vacuum comes in. I've had a lot of people reach out to me about vacuum work. I actually designed Kenny's vacuum he's running. I think he's been struggling with it. Kenny, you'll get it someday.
Just keep rolling.
Doing plate work it's great. It's just, it holds so nice. And I remember the first part I ran, I was a little nervous. I think I kind of did a cover my nuts and turn a little bit when I hit the green button, and that first tool hit the part. I thought it was going to fly through the window. Because I think it was Peterson I reached out to, and they said, just run it normal, run it how you program and how you normally would. And I did, and I was scared shitless. I was like, this thing's coming through the door for sure. And my 3-inch face mill hit, I think I was taking off like a 200th out depth of cut or something, going 100 inches a minute. It just ripped through it like nothing.
Man. Wow. You got balls.
I gotta try that. Have you tried?
I turned, I covered myself. I gave myself some protection.
Have you tried it with steel?
No.
That's what I've been curious about, because I think that's part of why we haven't really gotten into vacuum work holding yet. It's because the majority of what we run is some sort of steel. So I don't know. I don't know enough about vacuum work holding to say, we could use it with steel. I don't really know anybody that has tried it with steel either. I don't know if that's for a reason or just kind of coincidence.
Now that you mention it, no. I will say, have you ever looked at like a magnet for milling?
Yeah. I've looked
I've
at
never
them.
used one.
I've looked at them, but then the question is, like when you got to drill through your part, what do you do there? I don't want to drill into my $20,000 shunt magnet or however much they are. I don't know.
Well, I don't remember the brand. It was on I think the Technics demo van that used to come around here. So it might have been a Technics product, but they had a magnet that was really cool because, you got your magnetic plate and it would hold super solid. It's not like a, surface grinder magnet, but you could actually put steel blocks. I think you could bolt them to it, or you could just magnet them to it and basically use them as risers. So you could put like a mild steel 1-inch thick piece over top of it, and it would still magnet down your part down to it and sandwich it all together. So then you've got like almost like a subplate. So he was showing us how you could bolt down, like if you had something you were doing a lot of, you could actually use it for a production job, because you could bolt down some blocks to the magnet chuck, mill out a pocket for your part to fit in.
Yeah.
And then stick your part in there, activate the magnet, and boom, there you go. And that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that would be great for, there's a lot of things we do that would be great for. I may need to look into that.
Yeah.
Some sort of future
endeavor. Like I say, I don't know if it was Technics or Royal or who it might have been, but I'm sure. Do you ever see a Technics demo van come down your way?
I haven't had Technics. I've had Royal, but not Technics.
Okay.
Actually, a Lindex Nikken guy came by the other day.
Oh, well. Well, lads, anything else to add on that topic of least favorite and most favorite parts?
Ones that look cool when you're done.
I guess that's a consensus, right? Something you can be proud of.
Yeah, got to look cool. Like some of the castings that I've done where I've machined them from, just raw stock. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool.
I'd say that, those are some of the coolest things you put
Just
up
like
on
make
Instagram.
things that look cool.
Right. Yeah, just stuff that looks cool. That's why Cam's username is Machining is Cool.
That's right. I want to make another account. This is my alter ego that says 3D printing sucks. It's my username.
Oh man, the memes write themselves.
And then it'll just be machining content.
You guys ever machine adamantium?
Can't
Right.
say I have.
I'd say Tony Stark has.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
For the sake of
lads,
time,
I guess we'll move on.
we ought to move on to our next
So, both let's see, Possum Solutions and Cripps Manufacturing asked us about basically what our favorite shop improvements are. So, easy things that you can do for cheap that just improve either your efficiency or quality of life. All the way up to stuff that's expensive that is worth every penny. So I will say organization goes a long way. And something that we did, I'll have to get a picture put up. We went through last year and we put up pegboards all across the shop to hold tools for every station. Like, I guess 10 different CNC machining stations, if you will. We got 12 machines, but there's a couple that kind of go together. And all the time, guys were having to go to different areas to get tools. Because, nowadays you're not going to find machinists, or certainly not operators, that have their own tools, right? By and large, they might have wrenches, calipers, whatever, but they're not going to have everything like I might have, or an old school manual guy might have. So it became pretty apparent, okay, shop's going to have to start getting stuff even stuff down to parallels or dead blow hammers, Allen wrenches, combination wrenches, crescent wrenches, so on and so forth. And that was huge because that cuts way down the amount of walking around guys have to do to find stuff, which not only is a time sink, but it's frustrating too. There's, maybe it's just me, but there's nothing that annoys me more. There's a lot of things that annoy me more. Work-wise, one of the things that just annoys me the most is definitely having to look for something that should be right there.
Yep.
I shouldn't have to walk
Same.
across the shop, 10,000 square foot shop, to find a dead blow hammer. That's silly.
You know what annoys me more than that? When you have a spot for it. When you actually have an organized spot for things and it's not there. Then you got to look for it, and it's like, we already have a solution to this problem. Put it right here where we all decided it needs to go. We have a designated spot and it's not there. Where the hell is it? And why do I got to walk around and find this thing?
Yep.
That drives me nuts.
That does happen. And I think the bigger your shop is, the more people you have, the harder it is to discipline that.
Yeah. That's one of the things we do have going for us, being so small, which I like, is it's very easy to implement new things or like new organization methods or whatever, and actually enforce it, like help people, like make sure everybody sticks with it. That way it's actually worth your time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that organization, I would say, is probably the biggest shop improvement you can do anywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I added in probably was last year, tool holders. I ordered probably 100 tool holders in the last year, just trying to get everything staged, just my common tools set up, ready to go. I don't need to grab a tool holder box and load it. I got a 1/2-inch ball end mill that I use all the time, my 1/2-inch end mill that's 1.5 flute, 2 flute, or 2 inches of flute, 1.5 of flute. They're all set up. They're ready to go. Mm-hmm. So I can swap tools fast. I'm not, changing out tools out of holders.
Yeah.
That's nice. And my goal is to get all my common, drills, reamers, taps, all that stuff set up that I can just grab tool tags ready to go.
Yeah.
That's a goal.
That's a dream. That would be great. The amount of time, really, I think the satisfaction you would get out of that alone would be worth it, let alone the amount of time saved.
Nice.
So on that
Yeah.
note, it's not often that I have to actually go out and run like a CNC mill job or, set up and run a CNC mill job. But when I do, one of my absolute least favorite things about it is having to find tool holders and build tools because, we don't have enough. And we've got, 7 mills. In my opinion, we probably have enough holders for 4 of them. Not to say, I think right now they're all fully loaded and then some. We actually have a few extra tools staged for our GR510 because it only holds 10 tools and that ain't near enough. But like what Brad was just saying, that's been a dream of mine, and just budget won't allow it to happen. But we're already partially there. So something that I helped kind of build when I started here, and the guy before me started when I got into programming, and he was the programmer, was standard tools in each machine, or at least in the job shop machine. So like our VF1, VF3, VF4, tool 1 through 10, always the same. A face mill, several different kinds of end mills, and a drill mill for spotting and chamfering. That worked great because you can always count on those basic tools to be in there. It suited the work we did at the time. It probably doesn't now. It could be pared down some. Not that it would really help anything. But I've always thought the same, I would love to have, if we've got a few certain end mills we use all the time for aluminum, keep them built up. And then it's not as much of a chore to swap, instead of using the general purpose tool all the time for steel and aluminum and stainless, you might get break into having, this tool 2 H2 is for steel. Tool 2 H, 102 is for aluminum. It's if you really want to get that deep into it. But even just having the darn thing built goes a long way. So, yeah.
I got standard tools in all my machines.
So do we. That was a huge... Putting standardized tools in all the mills has been a game changer. Mm-hmm. We have tools 1 through 8 are the same in every single mill. And then every job we set up basically starts at tool 11. So imagine that as tool 1. You just drop that first number. So tool 11 is where we start. So whenever you need to load up, drills, taps, a different whatever, starts at 11. Left 9 and 10 blank intentionally, so that way we can add later if we need to. But yeah, the standardized tools has probably made one of the biggest impacts, not just with actually setting up the machines, but also with programming. I've got 1 through 8 saved. I've got a library with just my standardized tools. So I even labeled it A-standardized. So it's just at the top of my list of my libraries. But yeah, so whenever I'm programming, I just hop in there real quick, grab my tools, feeds and speeds are set up. Tool holders are the same on all of them. So we have the same tool holders for all the tools with the same stick out all the time. We have a chart next to where we set our tools up that shows what the stick out needs to be for 1 through 8 or 1 through 7, because 8's a face mill. So that way, and I have all the holders modeled as well in CAM. So I know if something's going to clear just by running the simulation. I don't have to worry about it.
Nice.
As long as everybody does the proper stick out, which everybody's really good about. So That's been awesome.
Well,
that's nice. I'd say another one that goes along with the holders is presetting tools. Unless you got the system in the machine to do it.
Yeah.
I set all my tools outside of the machine, so I've been starting to tag them so I know, the tool offset, so I can just load it, type it in. I got to hand feed anything down.
Yeah. Tell you what I would like, and I believe it's already a thing. I want to say I've seen it somewhere before. Have a tool presetter that records. I guess you scan and put your information in for the tool and the holder. But anyways, it records what your tool length is, and it knows the tool number. And so when it records all that information, basically creates a program to input all of your tool lengths and diameters into your control. And so you go through, load all your tools up, have your USB card or whatever, stick it in the machine, and your program will use G10, which is parameter right, and actually put in what your lengths and diameters are for you. So you don't have to go through and type them all in. That's what I would like to have. So that way while the machine's running, I can go set up 5 or 6, 7, 8 tools and just run through them all, get them all, my lengths and diameters set up. It's all on my card. I don't have to worry about fat fingering a number and screwing it up. I can just stick it in there, load the program, hit go, and it just writes all my tool lengths and diameters, and then I'm done. That would be like the dream setup for that.
I think there's a machine out there that can read something.
Yeah.
You'd have to mention in the chat. Somebody has it.
Oh, really?
I don't remember who.
I would say Zoller.
Somebody was
Zoller
talking
probably
about
has
it. I don't. Yeah, I remember someone talking about it. It either reads an RFID or something in the machine. I don't know. Over my head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm running Haas's.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's one thing. So one thing that hurts us in that regard, and I guess it kind of goes along with standard tools, is just standardization in general. So in our case, I don't know. It just depends on the work you're doing. We've got such a variety, even though we're an all-house shop, we've got such a variety in our machines of like the max RPM that they have, the type of spindle they have, whether it's 20 horsepower, 30 horsepower, whatever, two-speed gearbox versus direct drive, 20 station tool changer carousel versus 24+1, side mount tool changer. Some have probes, some don't. It makes it hard to fully standardize stuff like that because you're going to be touching something off differently on the VF3 that has a Renishaw probe, which I love. I love that. Versus the VF1, VF4, where you're using a stinking 123 block or a light up tool probe, and then manually, hitting a tool offset measure, something like that. Presetting tools is the thing that always worried me because, like you said, you could easily mix up a number. I would be super apt to do that, and then you got a mess on your hands. But
that's one thing I like about using the Renishaw tool setter in the machine. Mm-hmm. It may be slower as far as machine downtime, but the benefit of it is the process reliability.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about somebody touching it off wrong, unless they touch off an off-center tool on center or something like that. But yeah. What other shop improvements do y'all have? I've got a few if y'all don't have any in the chute.
Go ahead, Cam.
I'd say something to clean your coolant tanks, whether it's a Freddy, an X-Air, chip trapper, something.
We could have
most people aren't doing it because it's a pain in the ass to do, but if you have something, it makes it so easy to do it.
Yeah.
We don't. No. And it's a pain.
Yeah. We have.
I mean, I do it probably. I mean, I'll at least suck out my tank once a month just to get the chips out of the bottom of it, and I'll just pump it right back in. Yeah. Twice a year, I'll really clean out the tanks, bring them to the local self-serve car wash, blast them out.
Wow.
Probably hate me for it, but
they probably like that better than a muddy truck.
Yeah. I mean, I get all the chips out. I get everything I can out. It's just that shit that's stuck on the side that I don't want to spray it down with simple green or scrape it out. I just go blast it out.
Yep.
See, what we usually end up doing is which of course, Brad, you and I are using pretty similar coolant. You're using Castrol MB50. Yep. We used that for a while. We're using the Qualicam that's supposedly identical. So it doesn't need change very often, but as far as like filtering chips and filtering out the tramp oil, stuff like that, a lot of times we let our coolant tanks go a while because luckily that product does last a while. But I think it's been probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years since we've done some thorough tank cleaning, and our maintenance man's been taking them out, and he'll just empty the coolant out. I think he sucks it into like an IBC tote because we don't have anything like a Freddy or anything like that, which I would love. But he takes them outside and he sticks a pressure washer to them to get all the junk out and everything. And that does work really good. Then different companies make products that actually sanitize your tanks and your lines. And I think that's a really good thing to do every year, every couple of years, just to keep bacteria and, whatever else from getting in your lines and making your machine smell and stuff like that.
So I've got another shop improvement that I think is pretty helpful. I've got a handful of shop improvements. We've done a lot of stuff. But one of them that I think has had one of the biggest impacts is keeping the same thing at every single mill. So I have a rack that hangs to the left of the door in every mill. We keep a vice handle, a dead blow, a regular pair of pliers, a crescent wrench, two 3/4 inch wrenches, and a 7/8. Sometimes we use the 3/4 inch wrenches as vice handles, and we'll just zip tie them on. And then whenever you tighten both your vices, if we're doing like 2 ops at one time or a part across 2 vices for a handful of parts, when you tighten your vices, you position them to where your wrenches are facing the same direction, like usually off to the right. Then you have a visual indicator that your vices are tight, which is nice. Also, a 3/8 ratchet, and there's a couple other things. Anyways, keep all that there. Then we have the same toolboxes at each mill. And in the toolboxes, we have a set of parallels, parallel keepers, set of 8-inch Mitutoyo calipers, 3/8 drive Milwaukee power ratchet for changing your jaws and stuff,
Nice.
some countersinks, a drill, a spray bottle of WD-40, a stone. I think there's some other stuff, some stops. So we keep all the same stuff that you're going to need all the time at every single mill. Oh, and a set of metric and standard Allen wrenches as well. We actually have those. I got some magnets that have adhesive backs to them, and put that on both of those sets, and then stick them to the mill right above that shelf. And then we had like the same air hoses and the same air guns at every machine that hang on that same rack. So you kind of get muscle memory down. So as you go from machine to machine, it's all just in the same place all the time. So you're not looking. That saves a lot of searching. You know, like I'm sure everybody's probably been in a shop that doesn't have that set up, and you spend tons of time just trying to find basic stuff that you should need. At the last shop I worked at, it was difficult to even find an Allen wrench so I could change my jaws. I would spend 10 minutes sometimes just trying to find that thing, to the point where
I've done it myself here, walking around looking, and I got 3 machines.
Yep.
I'm like, where the hell did I set
So
that?
the other thing that does is it cuts down on you carrying tools away too. So because you have the same stuff at every single machine, you just get in the habit of setting it right back down, so you don't walk away with it. So that's also nice too. But that's been a huge addition. Also, we keep a mag base and indicator at every single machine on top of the control, just to cause controversy. And then
magnet on, right?
Magnet on, of course. How else? And then we keep one of those telescopic magnets. So when you drop something, you've already got a magnet there. You don't got to go look for it. You can catch it before it runs out of the chip conveyor. And then I think the last 2 things are a bottle of layout dye remover, which you don't ever use for layout dye. It's just a solvent, so it's nice to use for cleaning things. And then a bottle of like basically oil, like protectant oil. I don't know, rust preventative. So when you're running castings and stuff that like to rust really fast, you can spray them down. And a dry erase marker, so you can write on the windows. We'll do math on the windows for adjusting your offsets. Or if you get notes like, hey, tool 1 and tool 2 need changed, you just write T1, T2. So that way, if anybody else comes behind you, they know.
Oh,
they're ready to be changed.
That's smart, man. I like that. So you guys have basically gone to where the level of like standardization that I want to go to, and we just haven't yet. We did that with a lot of the basic tools like your Allen wrenches, combination wrenches, dead blows, stuff like that. We started trying to get mag bases, indicators, like your more expensive, tools like that. But we just ain't got there yet. That goes a long way, because it's almost like you said, it cuts down on people carrying tools off, which means it cuts down on having to hunt for them in the first place. And it's like, eventually you'll get to where okay, I don't have to take this anywhere, because wherever I go to, there's going to be another one. Toolboxes are a big thing that I wish we could get into more. I would love to have a nice, even just like a Husky box or something in my office for collecting tools, in mills and stuff like that.
We have
No, come on, you got to have the brown Kennedy, brown ring Kennedy. You're not a machinist. You don't have
That's
drive.
out of our budget, man. I'll take a ret. Man, I'll go to Harbor Freight. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, we
Hey, I got some green generals from Home
right.
Depot.
We have basically all Husky boxes. We use them for everything. And there's nothing wrong with them. They work great and they're cheap.
Nope.
So
Right.
I got a Husky behind
now
me.
we've got 2 Champion tool storage boxes, or like, storage cabinets that are really nice. They're heavy duty and everything, but we splurged for that. But that's what we store all of our cutting tools. And the other one is what we store a bunch of inspection equipment in. But other than that, like the stuff that's getting beat up every day out on the shop floor, Husky boxes with the butcher block top.
Yeah.
You can beat the crap out of them.
You're not rolling them around all day.
And if something happens to it, we'll spend $200 get another one.
Yep.
But I will say the thing that I feel like holds up a lot of shops with setting up mills that way, or just anything in general, is the cost to do it in the first place. But what I've noticed is, I mean, we're so much more efficient now than we used to be. Like a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
We can pump out some work with the few guys that we have, and it's because everybody gets that muscle memory down. They know where everything is all the time. They're not looking for things. I mean, it adds up. It adds up a lot. I mean, you'd be amazed at how much time you spend or you waste just looking for stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if you're not looking for stuff, like, the habit of just setting it right back down where you picked it up from. I mean, that added benefit right there. Saves you from having to walk back across the shop to that other machine that you were at a minute ago to grab the thing that you just had in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if you're thinking about it, just do it. Set aside, I don't know. Let's see. I would say for the 4 mills that we have, $3 or $4 grand, you could probably outfit every machine with what we have set up. In the grand scheme of things, that's not that much. I mean, the return on that is not going to take long with the efficiency that you're going to gain. It's just hard I get it though. It's hard to make that plunge and be like, well, I mean, do we really need it? Is it actually that important? Is it going to be that helpful?
You do one at a time and figure out what you really need at each machine.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Right.
I mean,
there's the standard stuff you need, but some shops might need something else
exactly.
here or there.
Yeah, we've kind of done it little by little like that.
Yep.
So the next step I want to do is shadow foam all the toolboxes. That way you have everything in the same place all the time and it's labeled.
Yep. I plan on 3D printing a bunch of trays for everything in there.
Same.
That'd be nice.
There's some other stuff I want to do that for.
Yep.
Yeah. I will say, and for people that are in bigger shops that might have, several layers in between them and people that make purchasing decisions. Like, in your guys' case, well, heck, Brad, if you want to buy something, you ain't got to get anybody's approval. You're just like, all right, let's put that on the American Express or whatever.
Yeah.
Cam, you're working right there with the owner that controls everything.
Well, I'm kind of in the same boat as Brad. He's kind of giving me the reins, so
even better.
I'm not going to go, but he trusts me. I'm not going to go spend $6 grand, out of the blue.
Sure.
So if it's something like that, I'll talk to him. But if it's $1,000 on some tooling or buy another $300 toolbox for something, if it's good, basically if it's going to make the shop better and improve things and make us more efficient, just do it. Which having that attitude has helped us a ton. That's how we got so.
Who's got some great organization? I don't know, we'll call them products, 3D printed stuff, whatever. Jay Fetty, John Fetty on Instagram. You should start sharing some of that stuff you do. He's got some really good ideas. Yeah. He shared some stuff with me that are just super cool. It just makes things really efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a smart cookie for sure.
Yeah. One of my
he needs to share more.
Yeah.
Where I was going to a second ago was if you're in a shop where you might have to justify some of these purchases, like that's kind of where I'm at, right? We've got a controller that oversees purchases and budgets and things like this. And I mean, money spending's always been tight, irrespective of the fact that we're slow right now. And you just have to try to find a way to justify it. And I tell you guys, that's hard because it's hard to put a number on, okay, how much does it cost me? I'm going to use something silly as an example. How much does it cost the company for a guy to have to look around the shop for an Allen wrench. Because you know, how often does it happen? How much time does it cost? How much, that's something that's, you'd hope anybody, even the beaniest of bean counters, would understand. But when you get into more expensive stuff, like Brad was talking holders earlier, I mean, it might be luckily, like with Haas or anywhere, I mean, you can get holders fairly cheap, but like, you might want to make like $1,000 investment, and somebody that doesn't get it, somebody that's not a machinist or directly involved, they might look at it and be like, well, how long is it going to take for you to pay off $1,000 worth of expenditures? And it's hard to put a number on that. So I would recommend, not that I'd ever want anybody to be dishonest, but like, just pull something out of your hind end and double it, inflate it, and just try to make the numbers look right. Because it's not like somebody can go behind you and prove whether or not it's saving you the money or the time. Just find a way to make it happen.
Man, something that seems to really crush a lot of places, or I guess it's wasted potential, is when you have employees who care and who have vision, you don't let them see it through. Because that's part of why we've been able to improve so much. Is like Sam, he just kind of, it took a little bit of working on him, like in the beginning I was new, and so he's like, I don't know if we really need to do that. But then as I've shown, more and more that I do care, I want to, make things as good as possible. I have vision, it got to the point where he just kind of let the reins loose and I do what I want. But if you have employees that are like that and you're not letting them, stretch their legs a little bit at least, you're going to crush their dreams and you're losing potential. Because, if you're only relying on your ideas, then you're kind of, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You got crowdsourced wisdom right there in your shop. These guys are doing it every day. They can have ideas too that are good, that can make life easier, better for everybody. And if you got to kind of gate the process and be like, okay, well, let's see these ideas. I don't know if that one's going to work the best, whatever. Or even if you're not entirely sure, but you think it might possibly work, let them run with it. If you lose, a little bit of money from it, everybody learns something, and it might lead to something else. There's more to it than just dollars and cents.
If you've got employees in your shop and they are offering you ideas and thoughts to try to improve your business and make you more money, you're a fool for not listening.
Yep. Unless their ideas suck.
Yeah. Right.
There's that option.
There's the balance to it. They might be might be a fool that has a dumb idea that won't work. But here's the thing. Yeah. You should try to explain that to them. Like, okay, I hear you. I'm listening. Here's why we're not going to do that. But maybe we could do this instead. Because eventually employees will either stop bothering and they won't try to make things better. They'll be burnt out, or they'll leave.
Well, I guess we're kind of naturally leading into the topic of why you should stay at a machine shop, or why you should leave a machine shop.
Pat, you've been at one shop, right?
Correct. I've worked at one shop for, we're recording this on July 12th, 2024. September 14th, 2024 will be 10 years that I've worked at the same shop. So there's been times, I'll be honest, there's been times that I've thought about leaving, going somewhere else, either because I was upset, annoyed at something, or I was just burned out. But I've never followed through with it. And as of now, I'm satisfied that I haven't. I've got it pretty good here compared to a lot of other rinky-dink shops run by yahoos in this area. But, you two are in a little bit different spot. My biggest advice is kind of goes with what I was just screaming about was, if you care and you're invested in the business, remember that unless it's your business, It's not your business. So try and do what you can that benefits you and benefits the company, and hope that gets eventually spread your way. But don't kill yourself doing it, because it's not your business.
Yep. I'll cover real quick why I left the last place I was at. It'll be a lot quicker than Brad. You've worked at a lot of shops. I've only worked at 2. So
Yeah.
the first place I worked at, it was, the first machine shop I ever worked in, the first machining job I ever had, which I guess is obvious with it being the first place I worked at. But anyway, I got into machining. I guess I was 24. Yeah, something like that. 23, 24. Got hired at a shop with no experience. I just thought machining was cool and figured I'd try it out. Well, I think I've talked about this some before. They were pretty disorganized. I think I might have talked about the first or second episode. Anyways, pretty disorganized. Just kind of things were all over the place. Not a lot of mentorship, not a lot of teaching, which whenever you're brand new to it all, and I didn't go to trade school or anything, I just kind of jumped into it. It's, you're chasing your tail a lot, and it just makes life more frustrating all around, which whatever, I was learning either way. So it is what it is, I guess. But I think really what ended up making me want to leave was 2 things. People I worked with just had bad attitudes about life in general, and I was sick of being around it, not a fan of it. But also it didn't look like there was any potential for improvement in the shop. Now, granted, I was there 4 months. 4 months really isn't that long of a time, but in my opinion, I didn't see them wanting to change or improve from where they were. And it was going to be difficult if they did, considering, the attitude of some of the employees they had, and kind of just the lack of caring that people had for doing a good job. So I got fed up with that and went and found a place where I saw potential for growth and potential for improvement. Haven't turned back since.
That's good.
Well, I've worked at 6 shops. I would say I was a 3-year employee.
Yeah.
Most shops, I think almost all shops, I worked October, 3 years. It wasn't a plan, just happened. One shop, I would say, was terrible. The other 5, they were great shops to work at. I enjoyed them. People were great. One shop was just Mid-Continent in Minneapolis. Terrible shop.
Where was that?
I'll call them out.
Where was that in the lineage of shops you worked at?
I started there in 2016. I only made it like 8 months. It was just terribly ran. You couldn't find a tool for the life of you. If you needed a 1/2-inch end mill, you had to walk around for hours trying to find one, hoping somebody had one hidden in their toolbox that you could use.
That's how it was at that shop I worked at.
Yep.
Wow.
And you'd go ask to order one, and like, oh, we're over our budget this month, and it'd be like the 7th of the month.
Yep.
And he'd be like, well, just go change it, find a different tool, go to a smaller tool, whatever. Terrible. But the other shops, I left them more because kind of similar was just the growth. I felt like I was being held back. I always wanted to improve myself, more experience, whether it was getting into programming, setting up a CNC, and I felt held back. So I would go to the next shop and ask, hey, I want to do this. This is my goal. This is what I want to do. And every shop would offer it to me. And of course, every shop pays more. So I always left, and it worked out. And I did a couple different industries: tool and die, automation, aerospace, medical. Kind of learned everything. Just kind of get a feel for what was out there in machining, what I liked, and the job shop stuff was what I liked.
So, what would you say would be your sign that it's time to leave, or is there a singular sign?
I wouldn't say there's a singular sign. I guess it'd come down to the individual, what you want to do. If you're looking to grow yourself, get more experience, if you're stuck setting up, maybe you're an operator and you want to set up and they never let you do it. Or if you're a setup guy and you want to get into programming and they never let you program, and just keep pushing it off. I worked at one shop, they kind of ran a seniority type of thing, and I had brought up I wanted to learn to program and run a CNC at the time, and It was like, oh, this guy has been here for 15 years. He's next in line to do that. I was like, well, I don't want to wait 15 years to do that. So I started applying at other companies and told them, hey, I want to learn to program. I want to learn to set up a CNC. And they said, well, we'll hire you in our tooling room to run our Bridgeport Easy Track, and we'll get you into CNCs. And within 3 months, I was, running some CNCs here and there. And then it was, well, I want to program. Well, we got other guys that are in line to do that. So then it was, well, I'm going to go to the next shop and see, hey, I want to learn to program.
Yeah.
And it's just individual, I guess. I mean, some people are content where they're at. You're getting paid well. You're learning, getting more experience.
Yeah.
Stay.
Hard to knock that.
But if you're not, I mean, there's a shop at every corner. Everywhere's hiring.
Yeah. Yeah, especially right now. We're hiring.
Yeah.
If you're a machinist and you want to work in North Georgia, talk to me.
Right.
Or even if you're not, but you have a work ethic and you're somewhat intelligent and you care, come talk to me.
Yep. I think part of it for me too was always to go on my own. So it was, I needed to learn everything I could somewhere, as much as I could to make that jump.
Well, and this could probably be a whole podcast by itself, but what would you say was, I guess the tipping point that made you decide to go ahead and start the process of going on your own?
It was always a plan. So I started Machine in 2004. I started Marvel Machine in 2013 part-time, but I didn't go on my own till end of 2018. I would say for me, it was timing. I ended up getting equipment in my garage and I started running it. It just kind of came to a point for me where I was going to work all day, worked at a great company, probably top company I'd go back to if I ever had to, probably best company I ever worked for. It just was one of the things. I was at work all day. I'd go home, run my machines, and I was trying to get as much work as I could. The plan was obviously to go on my own, but it came a point where the work was coming in and I'd sit there and I'd calculate my hourly rate that I was getting paid. And I'm like, well, shit, I got 10 times that sitting at home. Why am I sitting here getting paid this when I could be damn near doubling or tripling my money?
Yeah.
And it's scary as hell to do it if you're going to do it, but I say do it. Go for it. What do you got to lose?
And anybody I've talked to that started their own shop has said the same thing. Anybody that's still, self-employed, really with just about any business, but as stressful as it may be, they all say it's worth it.
Yep. And I think one thing I've heard a lot of people say, and was my big worry was, and this is something we could talk about in another episode going into business, just my fear was buying a machine, not having work to pay for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy a $300,000 machine. You don't have to buy a $100,000 machine. You don't have to buy a brand new one. You can buy a used one and get by. You don't really know what type of work you're going to get into. So if you buy a used Haas and you run aluminum work, it's fine. If you get into it and you're running titanium, you should probably jump up to something a little more rigid that can handle it. But most of the people that are sitting there scared to make that jump, they don't want to buy that $50,000 machine. They got a $60,000 truck.
Yeah.
That's not making them money.
Yep.
Sell your truck, buy a machine, buy the truck down the road.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My first machine was $35,000.
Yeah.
I still have it. I've had it for, it's my longest machine I've had, besides my Easy Track, but I bought that in end of 2018. The thing's probably made me close to $600,000 by itself. And I got maybe in maintenance $2-3 grand.
Yeah. Well, and
the thing's still running.
I'm not a business owner. I haven't started my own business, but it seems like, especially starting out, you're not going to have a lot of money.
Nope.
So low overhead should be a focus.
Mm-hmm.
I would think. If you can get a machine for $30,000 at an auction, that seems like that's another thing too. You don't have to. People think of an auction machine as being a dump. It doesn't have to be that way. You can, if you're patient and you wait, you're going to find something. I watch auctions all the time just out of curiosity, and every now and then, you can see it. Like if you were patient and you had money ready to go, you're going to find something good at some point. So, I think that's another thing. It's like
I watch them all the time. I just watched one where VF2 SSYT went for $14,000.
Yeah.
I almost bid it just cause.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like $14,000. All right, get that thing, put a new spindle in it. Maybe you could replace, a lot of things on there and still be just fine.
I mean, that's what I did with my horizontal. I got the EC400 pallet pool. It just popped up at auction. I had no intention on buying it. I got it for 23 grand.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it had a bad spindle in it, but for 23 grand, I bought a new spindle, another 6 grand. You know, I'm 30 grand into a pallet pool machine. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I made that back in the first month I ran it. And going into business, you don't know what type of work you're going to get. You're going to reach out to as many people you can for work. You don't know until you start, you know. And if you end up running production titanium, well, then you buy a machine for it at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
Versatility to start with is probably the most important thing.
Yep.
Well,
It's okay.
And in my opinion, you don't go into it with an hourly rate as focus. You know, it's your time. Your time is valuable to an extent, but you're not paying employees. You know, if you get a low cost machine, you know, if you end up making $100 an hour, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you'll do 100, sometimes you'll do 300.
I'll also, and this is just my uneducated opinion. If you're not willing to suck it up and deal with it, you know, not having the machine that you want, that sort of thing, you're probably not built to be a business owner, especially not in manufacturing.
Yeah.
There's never anything ideal or perfect in a machine shop.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
Nope.
Well, along the topic, Brad, you know, we're talking about leaving a job. What would make you close marble machining and go work at a shop?
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's a good one.
I mean, I'm not.
We're hiring.
I've actually talked to my wife about this a few times because we also own a salon too. I mean, the right offer came around, I'd take it. I wouldn't.
What would the right offer be?
I wouldn't question it. Not relocating.
Fair.
We're talking 100 grand a year.
I like Minnesota. I mean, I guess it depends on the area. I think at this point, knowing what I'm capable of as a whole, what I do day to day as an owner, running machines, I'm doing everything. So if I got a job somewhere and he stuck me in front of a machine, I have an idea of what I could produce based on what I do right now in a year. I mean, I'd have a hard time stepping into a shop for less than $125 a year.
Yeah.
Which in Minnesota is probably hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough, but I mean, my best year on my own, I mean, I did over 600 grand a year.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
you stick me in front of a machine and you let me program, set up, and run, and I don't have to deal with anodizing, getting stuff to finish in, shipping, ordering material, cutting material, and you just stick me in front of a machine. I don't know what who knows?
It's all that extra.
I mean, I can.
All
Yeah.
that extra.
I mean, some
Bullshit
days I
that's
got
frozen.
all 4 of my machines running.
Yeah.
And it's great.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah, for
Having all the
sure.
machines running.
You know, and I mean, as a business owner, I mean, there's some downfalls to it. I mean, insurance is expensive as hell. You know, I got to do my own investing, 401k, everything. So if the right company called and said, "Hey, we'll pay you this. We got great benefits," I mean, it'd be hard to pass up a good offer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, I probably won't sell my machines.
I was about to say,
I'd probably always keep
you'll
them.
still have that right there at home. You know, you could still do
Yep.
some side
Yep.
work too, which I'm sure you would.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And I mean, my machines are paid for. I'd say if you're going to go in, do it, your goal is got to get into it debt free.
Yeah.
Get your machines paid for.
Yeah.
However you can do it, just get them paid for.
So
Because then there's no worry.
you have freedom.
Right.
Yep. And I always have something to fall. If I ever do take a job, I have something to fall back on if it's here.
Yeah.
So
I've always thought, like, you know, I've thought not necessarily machining, but, you know, thinking about taking up a hobby, turning that into a, whether it be a side business or whatever. If you're in a position where you're essentially debt free, like you are, Brad, and you're not paying employees, you're not paying other people's social security taxes and all this other junk, whatever you're making, sans or, you know, minus expenses, is what you're taking home essentially. So, over the course of a year, whatever you bring in minus your material costs, your tooling costs, your expense to operate, that's essentially your gross income. And that can be pretty lucrative depending on your situation.
Yep.
And as soon as you add an employee or a debt, like on a machine, that completely gets thrown out the window, in my opinion.
Yep.
That's when you've got to start looking at, okay, I have to generate X amount per day, per hour, per month, per week, whatever, to cover that.
Yep.
And then make my money on top of that. And that's what makes things tricky.
Yeah, it does. I've kind of avoided getting an employee because of it. I like my freedom. I like not having to worry about things. I mean, I came in today. I ran a part for about an hour. I finished it, brought it down for anodizing, and then I went shopping with my family, my kid, to look at cars today. I mean, I was out of the shop by 11 o'clock.
Yeah. And,
and that right there is why everybody says it's worth it.
Right.
It is.
Right. Now,
and I don't necessarily look at a weekly schedule as Monday through Friday either. I mean, I may not work Monday, Tuesday, but that following Saturday, Sunday, I might work. If I got something going on during the week, I look at the schedule as, what day it is of the month. So, today being the 12th.
So it's almost,
I know I got jobs due on the 18th. So it's really, I got 6 days. If I need Saturday, Sunday, it's there.
Yeah. So it's almost like you schedule your work around your actual life.
Yep.
And that is a luxury.
I mean, the last 2 months I kind of slowed down a little bit because I was coaching my youngest son's baseball, and it's, practice or games every weekend. So I worked around that. I took on jobs based on what my schedule was outside of here.
Yeah.
And there's not the worry that I got to make a machine payment. There's not that overhead I'm concerned about.
It goes a long way, man. That's a luxury that a lot of people would love to have. We're getting a little bit off topic, but I know I've mentioned it before. I know a guy that from Ohio that used to run his own shop, and he'd have friends come in and help him, but he never really had employees. And just because at that time, that was a few years ago, the nature of having a machine shop in that area was super competitive. There were shops all over the place. It was hard just to scratch up work that was worth doing. And it kind of beat him into the ground. So he was in that situation where he had his own business for about 9 years. And he got out of it because he couldn't take it anymore. It's just too hard on him, his wife, because it was almost the opposite. He almost had no life other than his business, because that's just how hard things were in that area at that time. So it's interesting how different that can be for different people. Now he's working at a shop where it's kind of funny. He's kind of in a shop more like a situation like Cameron is, where, the boss owns a place. He's got all the worries about making payments and all that junk. And this friend of mine, he goes in, and within his power, he runs the shop like it's his. So it's almost the best of both worlds, because you can run things how you want, but you don't have to worry about the financial side of it necessarily. So,
yeah. I will say, just to, for anybody that's, I guess, thinking about starting their own shop, Brad, you've had your own shop for a while now. I don't think scheduling your work around your life is how it's going to be in the beginning.
No.
I mean, again, I haven't started my own business. This is just based on what I've heard from people, but I don't want people to get a false sense of what it's going to be like. I feel like you're going to be busting your ass in the beginning and it's going to suck.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Like I said, I worked on my day job, and then I ran, for a while, I ran a machine in the evenings, weekends, and then when I went on my own, I ran probably 7 days a week, and it's going to be different for everyone. You might land a great customer day one, and
Yeah.
I've met guys locally that I've bought equipment from that they got a bedroom set up at their shop. They're there 7 days a week.
No thanks. Wow.
It's, you never know. And it's, I would say don't go and do it with the intentions of getting rich. My intentions were to be comfortable and to be at my kids' events, not miss them. That was more important. And I've heard it from many people that said they worked their asses off 7 days a week and they missed their kids growing up.
Yep.
Well,
I could give a shit less about a machine shop or machining in general if it meant I had to miss out on, my kid growing up.
Yep.
I don't think anybody ever laid on their deathbed thinking, I wish I would have worked more.
No. Nope.
So,
well, I guess with that, it's probably a good spot to wrap up.
I think so. This has been a long one, boys.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Well, where can we find us?
Let's see. So,
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. I saw it on iHeartRadio.
Basically, everywhere possible to see a podcast or listen to a podcast.
YouTube if you want to watch us.
Yeah.
Yep.
See
our
us.
beautiful faces. Find me at Machining is Cool on Instagram, and I got a Facebook now, unfortunately. So there's that. I really just wanted it for Facebook Marketplace.
same.
But yeah, find me on there or the Practical Machinist forum in the podcast thread.
Find me on Instagram, Marvel Machining, or on Practical Machinist Forum, just Marvel.
You can find me on Instagram as @JobShopperTN, and same thing for the Practical Machinist Forum. We'll be watching for you guys' comments and critiques. If you enjoyed it, which we certainly hope you did, leave us a like, a good rating, and let us know what you'd like to see more of.
Yep. And you can leave a rating on, I believe, all of the streaming platforms.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people
And
don't
there
do
is
that.
I just noticed it. You can also find us on Overcast, Castro, Castbox, Podfriend, Good Pods, and True Fans.
All right.
Nice.
So
Good find.
yeah, got any of them?
Yeah.
I don't know what any of them
Me
are.
either.
but-
Right. If you don't know any of those, I don't know how the heck you're listening to us right now, so it doesn't matter.
All right. Well,
Thank
there
you
we
all
go.
for listening.
Episode 4.
Yep.
There you have it.